Okay, here we are, and I'm getting ready to scope what is a Google Hangout with Stephen Isaacs and one of my students, Bryce. Bryce is working on his Genius Hour product, the passion project for it. And we ran into some bumps in the road. He wants to create a video game. We're running into the bumps in the road because of things like 13 and under blocks on sites. And so, thinking outside of the box, our group brainstormed with him, and what we're looking at is him building his own game, not really thinking about going to under 13 website, but just doing it from scratch. So Mr. Isaacs was kind enough to take some time and give some tips, mentoring Bryce. So that's what's going on.
Brings in like this sense of urgency, as I call it, which is very important. You want your players to have this sense like they know that they're up against something to have to beat the level. So those are the kinds of things I think about with the scoring mechanism. And I also have them think about what items there might be in the game. Are you going to collect power-ups? Are you going to collect coins? Is there going to be a shop where you then buy things? All those kind of things you think about and map out in advance of creating the game. And that gives you a really solid plan to go from. So that's a start. Then as far as making the game goes, obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out what tool you want to use. I love, what grade are you in, Bryce?
6th.
Oh, awesome. So I love the tool called Game Maker. And if you end up going that route, I have tons of tutorials and things that I could forward to you that you can kind of learn from and stuff. But Game Maker, you would actually be doing, you program all the different objects in the game to do what they've got to do. So in that, you're taking, you'll create what's called a sprite, which is like a picture, maybe of your main character. And then you'll create an object for that, and you actually program that object. Like when I press the right key on the keyboard, I have to tell it how it's, that it's going to move right. When I hit a wall, I tell it that it has to maybe stop. All those kinds of things. So Game Maker allows you to do that in a what I call a drag and drop environment. And in fact, either today or maybe a different time, I can meet with you and even really show you what Game Maker looks like in addition to the video tutorials and stuff. But that's a tool that I really like. Other kids use, another tool is Scratch, you might have heard of. Or have you ever heard of GameStar Mechanic?
I have, but it has that privacy policy thing with the 13 and under.
GameStar Mechanic does? Okay, it might, because that's interesting. Because I know I use it with my 7th graders, so they must just be 13, and you're probably, 12 or 11?
Yeah, 12.
Okay.
That's hitting us on a number of things, unfortunately.
Okay, well, Game Maker Studio should not be that issue because you're not by default doing everything online. It's a program that you actually download. So as far as downloading the program, I think you'd be fine. I think if you went to publish the game, then you might consider those things, but I don't think that would be a tremendous concern for that. Does Scratch also have those requirements for the 13 and under?
Surprisingly, yes.
Okay. And now with those, what about with the parent creating the account with you? Does that still present that same concern, or?
Where our district is right now is we're not able to ask the parents so we can't send out permission forms right now.
I see.
I think if we look at it, if he just happens to be at home and talks to his parents about wanting to do that, and if his parents are okay with that and they do that at home, then obviously the parents have the right to do that with their kid at home, but I can't ask.
I understand that, but if that were the case, let's say, and he had created the account with a parent at home, does that still bring up the issue if he's to use it in school? Or I'm just kind of a little vague on, in other words, if he already has an account, that's something to think about, I guess.
Right, something to think about, yeah.
Yeah. But Game Maker Studio would not have that issue.
Okay.
There's another program that I just started using recently that I also think, you'd have to check it out, but there's something called Block Studio. BLOCKSTUD.io, and it is a website, and I'm not sure if you need an account to create stuff or how that part works with the privacy, but what they did there is they created this neat environment where you have, let's say you have a ball in the game, so you could tell it that when you press the ball's in the game, and then when you press terrific dollar. So that's something to consider too. But let's say you go with Game Maker. Like I said, it's something that you can install on the computer. So I think like if your teacher downloads it and installs it, I believe that might resolve that other issue because you're really working on it just on the computer, and it's not like you're. I imagine those privacy things are for things where you're part of that online community. Is that right?
Yes.
So like the GameStar mechanic,
And giving-
once you have an account, you can technically review other people's games. They could review your games. I think maybe that's where that comes in. Same with Scratch.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, that and giving, not giving personally identifiable information for,
right.
so,
Yes,
for
that's
fun,
where-
Papa.
I mean, like, in other words, I think with something like Game Maker,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you were to download it, the only thing it asks you to do is register it with an email address in
Okay.
order to use the full standard version for
Mhm.
free. And I believe as a teacher, you could do that part just to get it on the computer, but using it wouldn't be a matter of those constraints. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I would look into that. And,
Okay.
that's also an area where I could lend a lot of support because that's my specialty is Game Maker. Another possibility, though, and again, you might run into issues, but if you, like Minecraft, do you play Minecraft, Bryce?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay, but do you have access to, or does that create that same issue with the privacy stuff, or are you able to play that?
I actually kind of borrow my friend's tablets sometimes to play Pocket Edition, so I don't
see.
really know.
Okay, because let's say if you were able to play the computer version, I have students create games in Minecraft, and it gets pretty complex when they start using, redstone and things to really build out their game. But anyway,
Colby's
Yeah,
wanting
you
to say
can
something.
play offline, but it does if you do happen to go online, then you can there's a chat
right.
area.
So I guess it is some of the same concerns. You're probably
Yeah.
right.
But you
So,
can,
okay,
you do have the
So
option to play offline.
right. And there's also an educational version of Minecraft that you can use, and that you use just in the school environment. So that takes away a lot of those issues. So that's another thing to consider. So I would say let's backtrack a little and say that you're going to use Game Maker. So in Game Maker, like I said, you're going to learn a little bit about programming, but it's really a drag and drop environment. Do you want me to show you what it looks like if I share my screen with you?
Sure.
Okay, let me do that.
Gotta love Google Hangouts. He's sharing his screen.
Yeah, let's say Game Maker Studio.
Oh, let me get that. Thanks, I'll get that.
All right, let's see here. So I share my screen. Stuff, I have so many windows open that I gotta figure out which one I'm talking about here.
I actually have a game called Disney Infinity where you can actually build logic connections.
Yes. I have kids in my class that use Disney Infinity to create their games. You could totally do that. Disney Infinity is a great tool for that. So that I would say consider that for Game Maker. Just for our time here, I'll at least show you what I'm talking about with Game Maker, so you can see what it looks like and see if you kind of like the environment. Can you see my screen now,
Yes, you
Bryce?
can.
Yes.
Okay, so this is Game Maker. So in Game Maker, you start out by, and I'll go fast now, but if you're going to learn it at some point, you'll go at your own pace, of course. But you start out by, you would create a new sprite, let's say, and I'll create a sprite called Player. I hope I can find it on this computer. Here we go. So I just happen to have these sprites in here, right? So I'm going to take a sprite for this character guy, okay? So that's my player. So that's the picture for my player now. So now I hit OK, and do you see how he shows up here as like an asset in my game under sprite?
Yep.
Okay. The sprite itself is just a picture, but when I make an object out of it, that's when it can start doing things. So if you notice, I'm using a naming convention where I don't use any spaces. I'm going to call him OBJ player, just to be consistent. But the OBJ prefix, because it's an object, that's just kind of what programmers do, is they use a consistent naming convention. And for my sprite, I'm going to use that player sprite, right? So this object, so the sprite is just the picture, and the object, if you look, when I double click this, see how this other window comes up where it has events and actions?
Mm-hmm.
This is where the programming happens, okay? So I'm going to add an event, and I'm going to say we want to at least make our guy move, right? So I'm going to use let's see, with the keyboard, when I press on the right key, he's going to move to the right, whoops, at a speed of, let's say, 5. Okay?
Okay.
In the drag and drop way, I just programmed him that when I press the keyboard right, he's going to move at a speed of 5
Okay.
to the right. Okay? So, whoops. So, likewise, I'm going to do the same thing. Let's just say for left, keyboard left. Wait, what did I do there? Keyboard, where are the arrows? Left. Okay. Keyboard left. I'm going to have him move left at a speed of 5 also, right? And now, technically, he at least would move left and right. So, in order for this to work at all, I need a room in my game, which is like a level. So I'm going to create a room, and I'll just call this, under settings, I'll call this room level 1, okay?
Okay.
In this room, at least for starters, I need to, under objects, put in my guy, okay?
Okay.
There he is. So nothing too exciting. Oops, now I have 2 guys, which I do not want. I'm going to delete that one. So now, when I play my game, by hitting this green arrow here, I'll be able to test what I've done so far. So let's see here. What it's doing is it's like compiling the game right now, so we can play it.
Cool.
Yeah, and there it is. There's my guy. I move right, and I move left, but he doesn't stop anything because I didn't tell him to, right?
Right.
So what I like to do for that is, and there are many different ways you can do this. I kind of like to go to key release left, and then what I do is I still have him move left, but at a speed of 0 now, because that's the same thing as stopping, except he'll still be technically facing left. So let's say the guy's supposed to shoot or throw snowballs at somebody. When he stops, but I was going left, I still want him to be aiming left, right?
Right.
So that's why I do that, and then I'll add another event that'll be key release right. And what do you think I'm going to do for this one?
Right at
What's
a speed of 0.
Exactly. So here we go. So now I test my game again. He moves right, he stops. He moves left, he stops. Okay?
Okay.
So for the little bit that I've done so far, it's pretty exciting that at least I got something happening in a game where I made him do stuff, right?
Right.
So just to show you something else while I'm thinking about it, the company that makes this is called Yo-Yo Games, and there's a web page, yoyogames.com/learn, and I actually had a lot to do with putting this together, and one of my tutorials is one of the main ones you can see. So when I go to learn, I go here to, I think we did that as projects, and if you go to beginner maze adventure game tutorial, what this has here is about a playlist of about 9 videos, or yeah, something like that, 8 or 9 videos that show you step by step, kind of like I just did, but it'll show you everything you need to do to create a game. And the first game that I have people learn to create is a simple maze adventure game where I call it Escape from Alcatraz, and it's like you're in jail, and you build a lot of these levels with different mazes and enemy guards, and you have to get away from the guards and make it through the different levels, and you can shoot the guards. I usually have you throw hamburgers at them because, as far as I figure, maybe if you throw a hamburger at a guard, he'll get distracted and you can sneak past him. And then I have a section here on like going to the next room, having your enemies move, stopping when you hit a wall, keys and locks, and by that one you learn variables, the player shooting and random shooting from enemies, and then a live system. So this gets you through the basics of, and each video is probably maybe 15 minutes, but that might be a great way to start learning GameMaker if that's the tool that you choose to use. So, you know, I mean, I could check in with you periodically too, if you wanted or needed some support, you know, while you're working on it. But does that look like a good tool for you based on a little bit that I showed you?
Yes.
Yeah, and you have your idea for your game and everything already?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
What would you say for like a somewhat basic platformer combat game?
Somewhat what combat game?
A platformer combat game.
Okay, so a platformer, you could do it in GameMaker, absolutely. The one thing you'd have to learn, which is a little trickier, but it's definitely not too bad, is how to use gravity in the game. And that's I have tutorials and stuff. I can help you with that too. But basically, it just changes things a little bit because the way that you move and jump and fall is a little bit different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I didn't realize I was. So it's still definitely it's a great tool for. You mean like a 2D platformer, like a Mario type game?
Yeah.
Yeah, great for that. You know, and you know, Disney Infinity is definitely also an option. Disney Infinity is a little more, you know, of a 3D feel, so it'll be less platformy, but definitely have all the other elements you'd be interested in. But yeah, I mean, I'm just a huge fan of GameMaker myself.
Well, I think this is absolutely outstanding. And now I asked for the time block to be 12:20 to 12:50, and I appreciate appreciate you taking the time doing that, and your willingness to just basically it looks like Bryce has a mentor, yeah.
Yes.
So thank you
Yes.
so much, and an awesome mentor. So Bryce, do you feel like just in this first interaction we got some leeway that you have a direction to go in versus the day before yesterday? And I'm only here every other day, but I know the day before yesterday it was more looking like things were shut down and it would be discouraging for him. And then that outside of the box problem solving led towards a connection with you, and I'm grateful for your knowledge, your expertise, your time, your connection with kids. So thank you.
Yeah, I would just suggest, you know, that, you know, as a next step, to do two things. One would be to see, and you might need your tech person there to help if you have trouble installing stuff, but try to get GameMaker Studio installed.
Okay.
And I would suggest that if Bryce, if you wanted to start writing a design document to map out the plan for your game, you know, I'd be happy to take a look at that, you know, another time that we either chat or you can, you know, send it to me or what have you, and we could keep moving forward. I'd probably, depending on what times work for meeting, I also probably could connect you with one of my students who would be able to mentor you also, you know, so we have a lot of options.
Awesome.
This time in particular works for me because it's one of my, you know, planning periods, so we can
Awesome.
certainly meet again at this time.
Okay, before you sign off, I want you to also meet. There's a couple others right over here. This is Colby, and he was taking notes frantically and had a little input. And then as we were talking, three others were somewhat interested. And I said, "Come on around, and you can." So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves to them? First names.
Lane.
Lane, nice to meet you.
You too. I'm Kenny.
Hey, Kenny. How are you?
Good. I'm Jaden.
Jaden, nice to meet you.
All right, and you okay? We're going to meet everybody. Go ahead, people, quickly come on around. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Luke.
Hey, Luke, nice to meet you.
I'm Nathan.
Nathan, nice to meet you.
Izzy.
What was your first name?
Izzy.
Izzy, nice to meet you.
I'm Audrey.
Hey, Audrey.
Malcolm.
Malcolm, nice to meet you.
And these are my sixth graders, and we're gifted class, so they're all designated gifted kiddos, and so they're fabulous, and I love them. So.
You're really lucky that you're able to do a Genius Hour, like 20% time.
Yes.
Kids get to as well, and
Yes.
it's what a great way to take ownership of your own learning and get excited about learning. I think it's awesome.
Right. Well, thank you, and we will keep in touch. So look forward to you guys connecting the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, boys.
Bye. And so that was the scope of our Google Hangout with Mr. Isaacs, who is now Bryce's mentor. Yay! Mentors are great, and it's fabulous when you find a connection that works. You don't always find one that works, but this is going to be good. So that's us. Out for now.